I'm making artisan-grade shiplap out of difficult timber today on Vibrant Wood Creations. Here is my new floor, petite kitchen island, and excessive citrus collection. We are discovering the joys of the cardboard countertop as we wait months for the real thing. But on the plus side, when it gets dirty, we can just replace it. Moving around the back, we come to today's project. The back of the new island is just particle board, so I'm going to make wide plank shiplap to cover it. It's just a modest size I need to cover, 35 high by 42 wide, but the wood may be challenging to work with. I've selected a sweetgum slab from my previous residence in Carolina. This tree was damaged in a storm and leaning dangerously over a garage, so it had to come down. The portable sawmill zipped right through it. It's friendly to cut, but deeply uncooperative after that. More about that later. This piece is 8 feet long, or 96 inches, and I'm planning on cutting it in half, then resawing it thinner to eventually make 4 42-inch long pieces to make my wide shiplap. I trimmed the ends off and set them upright for this revealing shot. This wood is super warped. Here's a quote from wooddatabase.com. Quote, "Sweetgum is known to warp and distort badly during initial drying." Well, they weren't kidding. It is very pretty though and has lots of character without looking like it only belongs in a log cabin. Later, you'll see what I mean. For now though, I'll begin planing to remove the grody outer layer and flatten it out. There are several sweetgum species that live like expats in Central and South America, as well as Southeast Asia, but this one is a common tree indigenous to the southeastern U.S. It can grow 3 feet in diameter and 100 feet tall. It's a serious tree. Its name comes from the mildly sweet sap, which can and does form under the bark and gather in small resin orbs. Both indigenous Americans and local children used it as makeshift chewing gum for hundreds of years. With a name like sweetgum, you don't get extra points if you guessed that, but it has other historical uses. It has been used as an ingredient in perfume and incense, so perhaps I should have spent more time snorting it. Continuing on the aroma theme, it is said to improve flatulence. It is unknown to me if it reduces the amount of the aforementioned issue or just changes its bouquet. We'll move on. Next, it treated dysentery in the Civil War. Note that dysentery and diarrhea turns out are not the same. Diarrhea is caused by a virus or parasite, and while not a party, is considered less severe. Dysentery, while it has a certain World War II trench warfare vibe about it, is still common today, although it goes by a different name, shigellosis. This is a backside issue caused by food-borne bacteria that causes inflammation of the intestines in addition to having the runs. It's like a cousin to E. coli. Considering that I have been hospitalized 4 times for intestinal distress after eating something I should have skipped, I now count myself among those who have likely had this malady. Finally, sweetgum has been used to treat diphtheria. This nasty old-school disease is a bacterial infection that occurs in your nose and throat. The bacteria makes a toxin that kills your cells so fast your body can't clear the debris and you may choke to death on them without intervention. Gratefully, this one is largely eradicated in the West due to sanitation and vaccines, but still occurs around the world. I am confident this is the only shiplap video to work in dysentery facts. You should like and subscribe now just to show your appreciation for my unique skill set. And back to wood. The board on the left is looking cleaner, but the difficulty of sweetgum lumber is just getting started. This board is cupped and twisted. You can see it doesn't sit flat. Though I am fortunate to have acquired many tools, I don't have the ideal ones to deal with this. So I'm trying a technique I've used before, to shim up the low side and keep planing to grind off the excessively high opposite side. So I attached my shims and planed some more. It turns out, though, this did not improve the situation, so I added yet another shim and kept going. Here is the result. I have made absolutely zero improvement. Sometimes you can work around a problem, sometimes you can't. So it's time for a new strategy. I decided to rip about 3 inches off the offending board and then work on resawing it. I am ultimately making relatively thin paneling that will nail onto the back of the cabinets, and a bit of twist in a thin board will untwist with secure fastening. I move on to resawing to make my boards much thinner. The other pair of arms belongs to my wife. She was a great outfeed assistant here. You may notice I'm wearing a dust mask for this step. I typically do when using the bandsaw or sanding. Both create quite a bit of dust that I shouldn't be breathing in. Unless I was treating dysentery. These boards are now book matched, and I shot this to demonstrate that term as clearly as I could. The boards are starting to look good now, and you can see they have different tan tones, a bit of spalting, and a few knots for extra character. As a lot of my kitchen is new and polished, these more rustic and imperfect panels will help offset that newness while warming up an otherwise cool space if we are considering color tones. Later, I will make a shelf out of sweetgum, so there will be a bit of rhythm in that design element too. I need these panels to be exactly the same length, so I clamp them together and then cut them to 42 inches en masse. Cuts like this are exactly why I upgraded my miter saw to a sliding model like this one. I sanded all the boards with 220 grit and am working on my test piece for finishing. This wood is decorative. It doesn't need to be a durable surface. I just want the grain to pop out and give it basic protection, so I'd like to finish it with oil. It's easy to apply, wipe down, and repair should anything happen to it. Some woods soak up finish unevenly, leading to a blotchy appearance. These include pine, maple, birch, and cherry, so it's a common issue. I don't yet know what sweetgum does, hence the test piece. I'm testing with butcher block oil and teak oil. Either one should bring the color and grain out of the wood, and as a bonus, I already own both finishes. I don't want to have to buy something new for every project. My testing reveals that sweetgum is firmly in camp blotch. Not surprising, this wood is attractive, but not especially cooperative. I can account for this. I apply a thin coat of shellac to an unaltered part of the test board. It dries in 20 minutes, then I apply my 2 test finishes again over the shellacked portion. This time, no more blotching. I start by applying my shellac to the backs of the panels. I will finish each side of the panel the same, so the wood will soak up seasonal change in humidity evenly. This wood has already proven a willingness to move about, so I don't want to encourage it by finishing it unevenly. After shellacking all faces of each board, light sanding, and surface prep, I apply butcher block oil liberally, then wipe off the excess according to the instructions. Here it is, finished and installed. Some of the warp came out of that difficult board after resawing, and I used it as the top board in my cladding, so I got to slice another inch off of it at the last minute so it fit perfectly. Even with the creative countertop, the kitchen is looking better. Up in the right corner here, I'll add a shelf of the same wood closer to the fall. The warm tones of this wood help balance out the very white floor and stainless appliances. Sweetgum is a challenge to work with, but it looks great and nobody else has shiplap like this. Thanks for watching.